They say in space, no one can hear you scream. That was an outstanding movie, but there's a better one. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the In-Between. I'm Dave, and good to have you here. How has it been going? How's it going? How are you? Hope all is good with you. It is the In-Between again. It's Wednesday, February 18, 2026. And thanks for stopping by. All right, so what does that intro have to do with anything? We're going to talk about a movie, one of my favorite movies of all times. But in the meantime, a couple of things we want to talk about. I want to talk about what's been kind of catching my attention. Um, Speaking of attention, like the nation is captivated, but then again, it's also being force fed to us. And it's not anything, again, it's a bad situation. It's a bad situation. And I understand that individuals using their platform, but what about all the other ones? What about all those? Either I heard it wrong, either 64,000 a year or 26,000 a year. I'm not too sure that are kidnapped. Who goes that? Who promotes that? Who not promotes the kidnappings? But what I'm talking about is to recover, to find them. Who's out there? 24/7. A team of investigative reporters, and then all other assets that are being thrown in there. Sure, local law enforcement does their part, but what about getting the word out? What about those people? What about those? What happens to those families who don't have the voice? They don't have the platform. And again, something to think about. Things are going to have to change after this. Whatever this turns out to be, which I hope we all hope it turns out for the better. But what I'm getting at is after. What about after? Kid goes missing down the road here from me. A couple of years back, little girl went missing from McDonald's. She got into a ride, or people thought it was somebody she knew. She never made it home, and they're still looking for the individual. But again, it's an annual thing now that the news here will reflect on it. We'll pull back the story every year to try to figure out what's going on and is there any progress made. But imagine the full court press that's happening now would have been applied back then to that little girl, the student. She was a high school student, if I'm correct. She was working at McDonald's, earning a little money. And imagine that full court press by the media and everyone to get the word out. I'm more sure something positive would have come out of it, even though, the negative, but did occur. But something positive, like find out who did it and why. Answers. So that's that one. Also, speaking of answers, it's some things have happened, and I'm not going to go into too much detail. But I found myself on the outside looking in to this dynamic of I just I don't even know what to call it, because it's not generational trauma. It's just the structure and the way of life and how it gets passed down generation to generation. And I just saw it get played out, and without naming names or anything, but it was somebody close to me, some family members, and I saw that, and it's just a carbon copy of the parents, and which is a carbon copy of their parents. And again, generational trauma, generational actions. And sometimes, they say the seed does not fall, the acorn does not fall far from the tree. And in this case, it's true. And it's sad. It is sad, because all of that could have been avoided. All of that could have turned a whole different direction. It could have been for the positive. But again, it wasn't to be. And now you see history repeating itself, and it's sad. And now there's a whole new set of kids involved that are now suffering because of the parents and their parents and their parents, and so on and so on. And it's just sad. It is sad. So with that comes, at some point, somebody's going to have to be accountable to themselves. Someone's going to have to step up and say no more. Someone's going to have to step up and say enough is enough. Someone's going to have to say this is where it stops. This is where this generational way of thinking and being and behaving and thinking and living stops. And it's time for something better, because that's the only way it's going to break. That cycle is going to break. And folks, same thing with individuals that refuse to take accountability for their actions, refuse to accept that, hey, they've got to play the cards that they've been dealt, the hand that they've been dealt. They have to accept the consequences of their actions. Sure, it's easy to blame others. Oh, well, I would not be in a situation if it wasn't for that person, or if this or that happened, I wouldn't be here. And it's too late. You're here now. And you got to accept it. Well, I made a bad decision. I'm going to learn from it. I did something wrong. I'm going to learn for it. I made a mistake, I apologized, and I changed, and I stuck to it, and I meant it. And but far too many people find it easy to, blame others or say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll change," and then they come right back around, put a fresh coat of paint on, and they come back out, but they still become or return back to the way they were. And that's a difficult thing. But to lead yourself, you have to realize that sometimes you have to change things, and you have to accept that you cannot change others. You have to change yourself first, because if you want others to change, you got to change yourself. And either they're going to respect you, they're going to respect your newfound boundaries, or they're going to leave you alone, because again, they cannot help themselves, and they're going to be who they are always going to be. And it's just best to part ways. So again, break the cycle by accepting who you are, accepting your faults, accepting your responsibilities, accepting your failures, learning from them, growing from them, and just becoming a better human being to yourself. You don't have to worry about what others think. That's the last thing you need to worry about. It took me a long time to figure that out, but you can do it. Worry about yourself. Fix yourself first before you can think about fixing others. And usually, just fixing yourself is going to fix others. So remember, change is in your hands. Life teaches us it's up to us to learn. All right, well, listen. Movie, Aliens, the second movie, the second Aliens, not the first one. It's my favorite movie. I love the first one, but that was a little too dark, a little too gloomy. But the second one, a little humor, dark still. It was just action-packed. The Space Marines, the whole 9 yards. That was awesome. And especially that game over part.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Exactly. And what I'm talking about is it's a great movie, Aliens, the second one. And again, if you've not seen it, start with the first one. It's a good foundation and it lays it all down. But the second one is the best of all of them. And of course, then they went and just, beat a dead horse with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the movie and the other movie that ran off in a tangent, and then the Alien versus Predator, and then the new one, the new TV show that's out. Again, it's just no, that's enough. The second movie was the topper, the icing on the cake, the cherry on top. That was it. That was the best one. That's my opinion. What do you think? Is Aliens? And again, Aliens is the movie of the month. Listen, folks, I've taken enough of your time. I'm Dave. And until next week's In Between, have yourself a good one. Stay safe. Take it easy. Lead yourself before leading others. I'll talk to you then. Take care.